Trust. It's a very tough thing to build up and a very easy thing to lose. And it's almost non-existent in politics today. We know who we can't trust, basically all of them. But really, what you've got to look at is try not to, I'm only giving you tips on how to get through what's happening to us. I'm not really giving you solutions on the end game. I don't know how that's going to turn out. All I know is we are pushing back, and every day there's a little victory somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily get talked about on social media, or definitely not talked about on the MSN. And what I try to do to get the best from my politics is I try and rationale things out. I don't let my dislike of someone or something they've done overshadow everything they're saying, because sometimes with political figures that's been around a long time, there's a lot of knowledge you can gain from what they say about a certain instance. For instance, Tony Blair's idea with the rollout, the way to administer it, the idea in itself was actually very efficient. The problem with it, we didn't need it. We didn't need any of that at all. So the idea of how to do it was good, but the fact that they were suggesting we needed it at all was wrong. So that's what I try to do. It's not for everyone. Not everyone can do it. They just see a face and hate them. I particularly despise one or two, but I try and take away, I listen to what they've got to say on a particular topic and then see if it makes any sense. Currently, Blair again making sense about a trade deal, having to forewarn Lado in number 10, soft lad in number 10, that, don't retaliate about these tariffs from America. He's right on that. Just because I completely despise what he did with the war in Iraq, looking for weapons of mass destruction and coming back with 2 catapults and a slingshot, doesn't mean to say I can't cherry pick what he's saying and see the common sense in it and see where it takes me. And I do it with every politician. And the thing about the tariff, just as an instance, we shouldn't retaliate because America is still our greatest ally. It always will be. The trouble with a country like ours, where you get people that you can't trust, and we haven't had anybody we can trust since we lost Margaret Thatcher. They've all been much of a muchness, leading us down a path. They've just given us the facade of blue and red to make us think we've had a choice. It's the only reason Margaret Thatcher got nobbled. She wouldn't sign the Maastricht Treaty. Yes, she was all on board for the EU as a trading bloc, but backpedalled when she saw the political implications and how much control they were going to get. It's quite obviously set up like a communist-style setup. As Gorbachev actually said, you cannot understand the obsession with Western politicians to try and recreate the Soviet Union in Europe. You can Google that one. So he saw it for what it was. People like Gorbachev and Reagan decided to end the Cold War. Marvellous decision. The Berlin Wall came down. It's been good for the people behind it, obviously. And ironically, the people in the Eastern Bloc, the former Eastern Bloc, do actually understand the value of freedom a lot more than people in the West. I know quite well this Polish girl, and quite often she says to me, "You people are crazy. Why are you putting up with this? You don't have to. This is crazy." And she means the European Union. She appreciates the fact she was able to come here easily because of the European Union. That was a benefit to bad politics for Britain, but a benefit to her. She speaks English, her kids, they go to church, the Christians. She's contributing to society. What's wrong with that? That's not a problem to me. So in every bad policy making, there are some good things that come out of it. Obviously, we don't want sponges and people sending benefits back to their own country. That'll never work. We don't want colonisation. Not particularly bothered about people's skin colour. I've never understood that one. What we normally associate is group bad behaviour. If a group gets stronger and stronger and appears to be taking away from you what you feel you should have had, that's when they become a worry. And I really don't see that we've had any problems with that from Eastern Europeans. They've taken a lot of jobs, but that's the politicians. It's not the Eastern Europeans. The Eastern Europeans have exercised their ability to maximise potential of a loophole in our stupid politics that's kept British wages down. That's our politicians' fault. And you'll see with other religions, like, has anybody ever done any really big complaints on social media? I'm asking the question about Sikhs or Hindus. I never see much about it. There is always just one belligerent set of people that get the share of publicity, good and bad. In fact, they get more than the share of good publicity. The MSN affords it all the time. We're having it pushed down our faces at the moment. And it makes a lot of people very angry. But unless you start looking at what politicians that you don't like are actually saying and segregate the common sense sometimes that's in some of their rhetoric and separate it from the bits that you know are foul, literally quite foul, then you'll get a better idea of what's going on. For instance, Blair advising Starmer right now not to retaliate against Trump's trade deals. That's a good idea from a very bad person. But that's only my view. I see him as a very bad person. I see him as responsible for a lot of decline in our country, immigration, farming, fisheries, because he was a staunch EU sycophant. He was put in place to make sure that the globalist model for Europe, which is handled by the EU, let's face it, was in place, and everything that he set up from him coming to power, all the non-government organisations, the Quangos, the Electoral Commission, all of them, was set up to seep power away from Parliament and give it to these bureaucrats that you can't vote in or out. At least with a politician, you can get shut of them when you're fed up. So I do see him as an ultimately extremely bad person who sometimes makes common sense because of his length of time doing the job. I'm not sure if he made a lot of common sense in some public conveniences back in the day, but we won't go into that, shall we? Funnily enough, Bow Street Magistrates Court can't find the documents. It's odd, that, isn't it? Little snippets thrown in here and there. So what you've got to look at, here's a country in Great Britain that's been very accommodating to all religions, and yet we find we'll call it our national religion, being basically stamped out, other religions more favourable. That's sometimes down to us too, because we're not following the religion, because the biggest growth area in the country is atheism, people with no belief in anything other than getting up in the morning and I don't know what. And I'm not judging anyone for that. I'm not interested in whether religion is something you believe in or get off on. What is the worry for the country is the colonisation, and this is allowed to perpetuate. One thing we have to remember when you get hung up about skin colour is everybody that's betrayed you so far in this fight has been white. Everybody from John Major to Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, not Liz Truss to be fair, up to Rishi Sunak of course. We've got to look at the way that politics has been handled in this country. They've relied on everyone being apathetic, and I was guilty of that myself. But what they haven't allowed for is this, just as swift as all these measures are coming in, bearing in mind everything that Starmer's doing is on the back of Tory legislation, just as fast as that is happening, since Elon Musk bought Twitter and really opened free speech, and now that Trump's got in, the landscape has completely changed, and this is the first time in history we've had an opportunity to undo a lot of Tony Blair's legislation when we get a new, more favourable government. So there's a lot of focus on the little boats, there's a lot of focus on immigration, it's the backbone of all our problems, I get it. But unless we lift our heads away from this particular problem, which is being drummed down our throats, there's so much other stuff going on that's equally as damaging, that cannot be undone. We need to focus on the whole thing, and we need someone to move into number 10 who will do that. Not just curry favour with this repetition of mass deportations and basically unleashing something that cannot be put into practice. It's obviously better for all of us if we can get our own way without any taken to the streets or bloodshed. I know a lot of you think that that is coming, but I listen to David Starkey a lot and he doesn't agree, and I tend to go down his route because he's studying this all the time. I'm only looking at what's out there. And what's out there when I go out is nobody's particularly upset in the real world. The people that are really upset seem to be of a generation, which is mine and a bit younger, or on social media, or particularly prone to follow Tommy Robinson. They're a section of society. The society as a whole doesn't feel like that. The society is just fed up of everything costing too much. That's the main gripe. The cost of fuel, the cost of energy, the cost of food. And some people aren't even bothered at that. They're not even bothered. People are still paying £3.50 to get a coffee in the morning. What's that about? So I think what we've got to look at as a whole, then we don't have this hatred thing, because hatred's very destructive. And it doesn't mean to say you can't fight and you can't be just as savvy. But if you let hate get in the way, I can't stand him, I can't stand her. I mean, I say it, but I don't use it as part of my fight back. My fight back is things like using local shops, not just the supermarkets. We go to supermarkets, obviously, but buying what you can from British manufacturers. The stuff I said in the previous video. And basically enjoying your life. Don't waste your life fighting a demon, a political demon, which is what we're doing. Don't waste your life fighting that and forget that life is not about that. That's only a proportion of what's going on in the world. Even if you move, you could move somewhere else and get rid of all politics, and then a bad neighbour messes it up. So what you've got to look at is, it's a beautiful sunny day today. I'll be spending it in the garden as usual, pottering around with my dogs, playing. I'll probably have a lunch outside. I'm having a big pork pie today with Dave. It's a belt. It's one of them with crunchy crusts. I love it. And try and make sure that you're not, the reason I'm saying all this is my dad used to carry a thing round in his wallet with a picture of a cruise ship from a newspaper. And he used to stick his fag in his gob and he'd open it up and he'd go, see that? So I'm taking your mum when we retire. We're going on that when we retire. Right, confident. Well, they never saw a cruise ship. She died at 54. And I've got people on my friends list who were terrified of not getting Brexit, scared to death about the rollout, scared to death of getting a Labour government, who are no longer with us. And all that fear and hate wasted when they could have been having a nice time, because the impact of what's going on, and when you talk about global trade and things like that, it's not going to affect you inside your head and inside your home. You don't need to let it infest you, because that's just destructive for you. I'm in a pretty good frame of mind. My husband isn't. My husband's down, but I give him a bit of a pep talk and then he feels better. And that's why I went on the other day about I'm living better than I did in the 70s. So yeah, even though the 70s were better because it was more normal, life was more normal, it wasn't for me, because I was worse off and had no direction. I've come to a good position in my life, and I try and put a bit back by doing a bit of stuff for other people. I'm not a bloody saint or anything like that, but when I see people getting railroaded by legislation or social services, and I think I can help, then I do, because I like to think that's a bit of a victory where the system hasn't won, and the system infects all of us. And the best thing you could do is nurture your children, nurture your grandchildren. The other thing I find, my mother talked to me as though I was an adult from being about 6 years old. I understood my dad's balance sheet from his books. They weren't so bloody clever like. But I understood it when I was 10. And I can remember taking phone calls from carriers, who had a little haulage business. And I could plot routes out for him. He showed me how to read a map. I was about 11 when I could actually take bookings in, because I think the young brain is capable of so much more. We're making young people kind of childish in one area and immature, and yet thrusting all this gender bloody bollocks on them. I don't understand that at all. So my daily podcast, for want of a better word, I come on here to just breathe, just to share with you how I'm feeling, and hope that you get something back from some of the techniques that I use to stop myself from going freaking bonkers. Because if you watch what's going on around you, you will. I mean, Sri Lanka they've just made some legislation to cut some food prices. It's only a small thing. And then you've got Thailand, who've cut their electricity prices to help people because it's coming into their winter, as it were. They've cut their electricity prices to make it easy for people because they know they're faced with rising costs. And what do we get? Slapped with more tariffs, slapped with more taxes and told it's going to be tough. Whilst we watch them, we have to sit here and watch them blow our money overseas. And I'll never get my head around that. I cannot believe that there's somebody more important than you and me in this country paying into the system that sat somewhere that deserves our farmers' money or whatever it is we should be having, as we have to watch our system and our infrastructure decline. I'll never accept that. Never. Especially when we're giving foreign aid to places with space programmes. And especially when you've got the Paris Accord that eliminates China and India from having to reach this ridiculous goal of zero. They don't have to sign up to it at any particular time because they're considered growing economies and they get foreign aid. That's the one reason, if you look at the Paris Accord, why China don't have to abide by the rules. And you've got a Prime Minister in Keir Starmer who's cozying up to China and India for trade deals to try and thwart Donald Trump. We shouldn't be doing trade deals like that. We should be doing trade deals with our allies. And we don't actually buy enough off America to hit back anyway, even if you wanted to. We're buying bourbon and Harley Davidsons. There's not much else. Well, there is a bit, but you know what I'm saying. We're not exactly a massive marketplace for them. And then you've got the clowns in Europe that they're basically crumbling in front of us like an historic building and telling us that they're on song and they've got the resources. No, they haven't. No, they haven't at all. And I sometimes not fall out, but debate, we debate, in these WhatsApp groups with people who only got on board in the fight because of lockdown, but weren't politically savvy or knowledgeable and voted to remain in Europe because they didn't know what it was about. And that's why I get a bit headstrong sometimes because I think, hang on, I've been doing this 9 years. And people need to understand that the only way you can keep going and keep fighting is to give yourself a little treat every day. Remember the good stuff. It's always put there by you. Every single thing. Not one of you has come on the thread and said, well, actually, if it wasn't for the government, I wouldn't have had. Nobody's ever come back on the thread, you have a look, and told me that the government actually did something that made their life better. We're normally trying to run our lives fighting the government. And we'll always have to do that, even if we get a better one. There'll always be something, because they're never going to please the whole crowd, are they? You can't even please a working men's club committee, can you, if they want a new drummer, going back in the day. So once you get a nucleus of people together, to get like-minded people thinking, it is, even at council level, it's hard work. But the thing about today, it's weekend. Get on with it, enjoy it. Tell me on the thread what you're doing with it. Share some of the good stuff in your life because you've got a lot of it. And you don't have to focus all the time. There's social media, there's access to news, there's the facility to share, and the strongest thing you can do is to talk to people who aren't taking any notice. Just give them a little helping hand and say, well, we're losing the way we live. And it's very serious that what's coming is communism. And if communism does get a real stranglehold, at the moment it's taking the screws out the front door, isn't it? But we've still got it shut and we have to keep it that way. But that is the biggest fight. Not who's running reform, not who'd be a good leader, not policies for a party that's only got 4 MPs. No, that's not a priority. Not the setup of reform. No, it's not a priority. It might be a niggle, a side issue, a ransom strip in the grand life of land. You call it a ransom strip, something that's small that has to be addressed. But it's not vitally important. What's vitally important that we have enough about us to continue pushing back the way that we do. We've just ordered some stuff online. Shoes, British made, by British hands at a small factory, coming to us direct from them. It's probably cost me about £8 more. I don't care. It's British. I'll stomach that. That's my contribution. And that lump of cheese you'll buy from a farm shop, it's your contribution. And it doesn't mean to save to make yourself go short or buy things you can't afford. You do what's best. You put yourself first, your household's needs first. And if you need a supermarket for cut prices, you go to that supermarket. No one's condemning that. You do what's best for you first. And you certainly don't give your money away to political causes or crowdfunders when you need the money for yourself. You only do it if you've got spare income that you were going to blow anyway on a bloody Toblerone or whatever. Just paid £9 for a Toblerone. It's massive, man. It's like a rocket. But £9 for a Toblerone. I can't eat them anyway. They're awkward. Who thought of that for a shirt for chocolate? You know, I'm taking them square bits and you can... I like it when it's going a bit soft, actually. Sometimes I stick it in my brine foil, let it warm up a bit, and then it's nice and chewy. So what I'm saying is, look after yourself. There's only you there to do that. The rest is just window dressing. So remember that when you're getting down. Don't just say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let it get to me. And go and do something. There's something else that you could do that you'll enjoy. Switch off from it, put your phone down, put your laptop down, and just do it.